All right. You know, I think we did it. I think, and I not think. I think we did it, everybody. How you doing out there? All right. I'm Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, and welcome back to the dark side of the room. So, it really looks like we did the thing. So, things aren't totally set. They're not totally back. They're not totally good. But like I said, we're back. We're doing the thing, and it has been a week. So, we got the thing out there. We're talking about all this stuff, and again, I think we're back. I got one more cup of coffee. But yeah, so we did it. I think we did it. I seriously think we did it. And yeah, this has been a journey. So, I'm not going to do a big ol' announcement thing today, but I want to say I'm happy to be back. It has been so difficult, okay? I've gone through 7 hard drives trying to find one. This is just a temporary fix, and as you can see, we're in a different part of the Wizard's Tower. Everybody, it's real. And unfortunately, the way that this works is, the room that we were in before, as much as I liked it, it kind of fell into the void. It's a different thing. So, yeah, that one might be all the way gone. So, we're going to see what we can do on finding it, using our magic and putting everything back together, but that's okay. We are back. We're back. We're bad. All of that jazz. And the other thing I'm trying to do here is I'm also going on to our Discord server to let people know that things are working. Things are working. Oh man, but yeah, that is most definitely a thing. Hang on, I gotta remember. Yep, there it is. The thing is in the trees. That is what we're doing. That's what's out there. Yeah, hang on. Discord social media. There we go. So yeah, but we're back. We're doing the thing. We are totally back, at least for now. Gotta log in my Discord server and all that jazz. But yeah, that is totally the thing that we are gotta give a shout out to all of you guys. Okay, major shout out to all of you guys. 25. Well, let me check this one then. Alright. That is the thing. So yeah, we're just saving that over there. And yay, we're back. We are totally back. So now we're on the Discord channel. Everything is cool. We're making sure that everybody can see a thing. And yeah, that is all of the stuff. So yeah, we have returned. And let's see who we got with us today in the chat. What's going on, Alien Gathering and Miss Moozalot? Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Let's check out what's going on the YouTube channel. I got the dual stream going again. And yeah, we're just making sure that everything is good. And today we're going to talk about playing pretend. All right? Because with my time off from what I have been fixing everything and rebuilding the Wizard's Tower and making sure that stuff has been working, I suppose. What I've wanted to do at the end of the day, well, how can I put this? For those of you guys that don't do this for a living, hey, Fried One, what's going on? It's good to have you back. For those of you guys that don't do this for a living, there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And like I said, there is a lot going on behind the scenes. So with the a lot that's going on behind the scenes, I've been doing most of the stuff that I can do to what is the term? No, to make everything work. And I'm totally that guy that's like, yeah, no, totally. Everything is working because I come from the old school of entertainment where you're not supposed to let them see you slipping. So here we are. And yeah, I'm really glad to see that everyone is around. And I'm putting out a big announcement. Boom. Yeah, but what I need to do here is I need to invite folks to the server. All right, so that is, yeah, I got new level and new perks. Yeah, that's nice. Uh-huh. So yeah, that is most definitely a thing. And whew, it has been a journey, guys. It really has. It's really been a journey. But we got it. We got it going and all of that stuff. So, nope, we're gonna escape that. Gotta find the invitation to the Discord server because yeah, all that stuff went down with there we go. With the last thing, but that's okay. We are back, we are here, and boom! Invitation. There we go. There's the invitation to the server. Yeah, so we got some new music. We got again a new set, so that is all awesome. Let's just say we're entering a new era of Back in the Deck Productions. And while I was down and fixing everything up, I'm like, you know what? We should probably get a little better organized. So I've been coming up with a schedule, trying to write more shows in advance, come up with topics and things like that. But before we get out of here, I want to, and when I say get out of here, I'm going to take a slight break. I still have to do the contact sheet and all that stuff because, yeah, everything I had went down, but that's okay. We're back. So yeah, well, thank you. Yes, Shao Kahn might actually be appearing on top of these steps. We never quite know. Yeah, I know someone with such a bright personality is in so many dark places, but what can I say? They look good on film. You know what I mean? So yeah, that is what we're going through right now. Like I said, we got some new music. We got some new stuff. And yeah. There's a whole lot of stuff we got going. This would normally be a hobby hall day, but instead of hanging out in the hobby hall and doing the stuff that we would normally do, I just wanted to catch you guys up on the week. But what I want to do is I want to give you guys a chance to talk and say what's up. Got to give a major shout out to my patrons, specifically the royalty tier, being Shannon Boom Boom, Lay, Chaley Watson, Laura Holton, Jennifer Kroll, Frank Perkins, Joel Heiler. We also got Laura Gross, Christopher Chalmers, Glenn Couch, and of course, our ace in the hole, Joseph Hines. So that is pretty awesome. Like I said, I'm glad to see that people are here and that we're back and all that stuff. This is like real talk. I'm very happy. Very, very happy that all that stuff is there. So, if you want to get a hold of us, what's going on? Yeah, that's right, Glenn. Or sorry, Daryl. Yeah, what's up? That's right, Daryl. The wizard lives. Everything has been put together. Things are a little bit better. And like I said, we're just going to keep on going. We, such predicaments, we forge ahead. All right. And that is all about the thing. But what I'm going to do real quick is I didn't grab all of my stuff before we got started with today's show. So I'm going to put you guys on hold for quite a moment, just for a hot minute. and I'm going to grab some of the supplies that I need just to make sure that I'm here and I'm with you guys and all that stuff. So we'll be right back, and then we're going to talk about playing pretend. We're gonna tackle bleed from both sides, and for those of you guys that don't know what bleed is, I'll give you a chance to talk about that amongst yourselves, and I will be right back. No, my friend, that is not a period joke. How you guys doing out there? All right, so we're back and at the moment. No, yeah, it is so great to be back. All right, things have been a little weird, but I'm doing my can. I'm doing what I can. And no, we're not going into Vampire the Masquerade. All the stuff I had planned for this week by like looking at different games, I wanted to focus on the World of Darkness stuff for this week by doing a couple of games a day. But, well, you guys remember what happened on Tuesday, right? Anyway, no, what I want to talk about is bleed, okay? Now, bleed is what happens when the line between pretend and reality start to mesh when you're at the table, all right? Now, what does this mean? This means, well, let's pretend for a hot minute. We're playing a game, all right? Playing a game, and we've seen this all over the place. There are so many videos about two people are playing at a game table. One of them is mad at the other, so their characters start being mean to the other person's character. Okay, it's we've got Cedric and Mordheim, and played by Mike and John, and Mike and John are beefing outside in the real world. So Cedric and John literally start to go at each other in game. All right. Now this stuff is it's common. It's really, really common. We see it with family members like siblings or cousins. We see it with old friends. Believe it or not, there was an old game in the World of Darkness back in them 90s. Actually, no, I think this one was early 2000s, called Wraith the Oblivion, where the game mechanics themselves. Hang on a minute. I'm so disorganized. Wraith the Oblivion, where the game mechanics encouraged bleed and grudges. All right, but we're not going to talk about bleed and grudges today. All right, now this is an interesting thing. Oh yeah, Daryl knows what I'm talking about. Oh no, not the shadows. Absolutely the shadows. Because White Wolf at the time said, people like playing our games, and they really like playing our games with their friends. What can we do to fix that? But we'll get into that next week, all right? But what I wanted to talk about, what I really wanted to talk about was, as you guys know, I run a lot of games. I run a few games here on the channel. I try and run games in the outside world. And I do classes, okay? Now I'm going to be starting a series on the YouTube channel of how to play D&D and role-playing games in general. I'm starting with D&D because I need them eyes. But, yay, algorithms. But I don't mean how to play this and this is what you get. I'm going to be going about all that stuff. It's called Grudge. It's called Grunge. Actually, emos from the 2000s were sort of the outcropping of goths from the 80s and 90s. So, anyway. But yeah, I'm going to be hosting a series on that. Doing sort of a condensed version of a lot of the talks that we've had over the years, just to get more interest in the channel and all that stuff, so I don't have to beg you guys as hard every show. But yeah, this is some fun stuff. But being with new players, all right, playing with a lot of new players and teaching people how to play D&D or most role-playing games, I see something that I see a lot of, and it's hard to thread the needle of. Okay? Now, we've seen loads and loads of bad behavior over the years at the gaming table under the guise of, it's what my character would do. And, I get the feeling, actually, I'm making the observation that phrase in and of itself is becoming anathema to a lot of fun times, especially for new players. All right. By the way, can you guys hear me okay? Am I coming in clear? Am I coming in clear? Because I can go up to 11. I think you guys are hearing me all right. Anyway, thank you, Friedland. A little staticky, huh? Yeah, let me just... All right, that should work. A little bit there. So, as I was saying, the idea of being mean because that's what my character would do is a very, very, very common thing. But one of the things that I have seen with new players is less it's what my character would do, and, well, how can I put this? Let me start over, alright? When you start playing a D&D game, a lot of people think that it is like video games, in the sense of you create your character and you just play. Okay, you just play. However, when you're playing a video game, there are two things. Number one, especially a video role-playing game. All right, this is important. because this is not about online play. All right, you don't play story mode online. Most of the time, it's PvP. Let's be real. So when you're playing something like The Witcher, Dragonborn, the Conan game, whatever it is that you're playing, if you are playing some sort of story mode, you're playing that story mode solo. All right, which means no one is hanging on your word. No one is waiting for you to make a decision or to act. It's really just you. Okay? And there are a lot of newer type players out there. And with those newer type players, what we tend to have is a lack of a particular social skill set. Okay, and that social skill set comes down to not living by yourself. All right. Now, Monday, I talked about the idea of competition and how a lot of the times especially with anything labeled game, there is this idea of winning and losing. All right. But a lot of the times, and I wish one of my regular streamers were there, they talk about, what is the term? Not wanting, let's see. I'm actually letting them know. Oops. Sorry about the caps. All right. There's a really big concern from a lot of people about messing up the experience for everyone else. Okay? So there's a lot of what psychologists call freezing involved. All right? And what is that? That is a point, like they describe it like a doe in headlights. Right? So you've got, okay, it's your turn to do something, and then but it's not just that. It really isn't just that. A lot of people are used to keeping their plans close to the chest, and they don't really cooperate in the way that a lot of other cooperation or group activities tend to go down. All right. So you'll get a player that's like, "Oh, there's a thing. All right, I have a plan." And it's like, dude, okay, what's your plan? Oh, got staticky again? Okay, how about now? Oh. That's because my mic came out. So, as I was saying, as I was saying, a lot of players are like, okay, well, I have a plan, and my plan shall be clever, right? They freeze up. And then they go, okay, cool. Let's talk about your plan. Or, there's a thing. All right, well, I'm seeing a thing. Yes. And it's like, hold up. Other people are waiting on you to talk. Okay. But a lot of the times that comes up because they're afraid of what's called taking the oxygen out of the room. Oh, yeah. Heart of Darkness. Yeah, or Darkness Rising. You're absolutely right. And when a lot of that stuff comes down, okay, it's hard to remind people sometimes that they're in a group setting and people want to hear what they have to say. Now, I know that's weird, right? I mean, that's living in the 21st century and doing most of the stuff that you would do, how can I put this? Yeah, the stuff that you would do on online or in other group settings, it's almost like you're in a competition with other people to be the most clever or whatever. So that starts to become a thing. Okay, that really does start to become a thing. And when I say it starts to become a thing, I mean the thing that I'm talking about is people get stuck within that mindset Hopefully that cleared up the static. I was having a microphone cable problem. So what does this mean and how does it go? Well, the first place that I talked about bleed and playing pretend, or that I realized that there was a difference, was when I was playing Call of Cthulhu. Okay? I played Call of Cthulhu with my friend Mansfield years and years and years and years ago. And he was saying, if the GM does their job properly, everyone eventually plays themselves. And I started to think about that. All right? And how does this relate to new players? Yeah, it's the AC. Yeah, it's actually the AC. The fan is on because it is about 30 degrees centigrade here in this part of the Wizard's Tower. Blame it on the fire behind me. So, like I said, people end up playing themselves eventually. Okay, and what do we do about that? All right, now when I run games, I always try and remind my players. All right, fine. It's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit in here. All right. Anyway, Celsius centigrade. All right, fine. It's hot. All right. It's just hot. and when I set up situations and puzzles and things like that, what new players do is they forget to play their characters. All right, they forget. I hear the "that's wise" or "that's becauses" a whole lot. People are tied up with their characters. They have fear for their characters and stuff like that. And I realize that. But the thing I always have to remind people is, one, the things that happen to your character are not permanent. And two, as much as they feel real, they are not real. All right? It's an interesting place because when you play games and have different traits or strengths or abilities or knowledges, the character are the ones that has those things. The player may not. Most of the time, the player doesn't. I'll tell you, every single one of my fighter characters are a better archer than me. But what people forget to do from time to time is to go, wait a second, my character is better than me at this. Or my character isn't as good as I am at this. Now, this comes down to having a line to differentiate your character from yourself and how the bleed over starts to happen. A lot of players, especially new ones, this day and age, and I know there are GMs out there watching me, so yeah, talk to me on this one too. You'll get a player that recedes into themselves. They'll start to you'll present them with a puzzle or a social situation, and their body languages change. They'll start looking down, and they'll start thinking, and everything will stop. Okay, everything will stop because it's their turn. Now, how do we do this as a GM? Well, the easiest way is to go, all right, while you're thinking, and then go to a different character. And that's fine for intermediate to veteran players, but for new players, this can be a little irksome. Because if they're thinking their way through a thing, and a different player just handles it, then they'll feel like they tend to feel like they're being skipped over or they're not being allowed to play. All right. Ooh, we got a question from Fried One. Reversing the bleed direction. The characters may know more than the players. Do you just remind them or wait for them to roll their wisdom skills? There is no silver bullet answer to that question, Fried One. When this stuff comes up, my rule of thumb, the thing that I tend to use, is I wait 5 seconds to read the body language of my players. And when I say that, I mean 5. All right, if they haven't said anything or they haven't looked up or their body language is getting more and more closed off, then I'll be like, look, if you can't figure out this puzzle, it's fine. Your character is better at this than you are. So you have skills that you can roll to get through a few things. But never ever, and GMs out there, never ever forget, one of the lessons of Sun Tzu. Okay? You may not have described everything well enough. All right? You might not have been clear about the setting, the circumstance, the room, the situation, the puzzle. There is a level of description that you have on your side. But if they get afraid or locked up, then yeah, there are times where you have to remind them, okay, your character knows a little bit more about this. What I see is two major things when it comes to newer players. All right, and this is something that I want to get out there. Because remember, when I say newer players, I mean people that have been playing for less than 5 years. Okay? Hang on. Is they want to avoid being embarrassed, and they measure what will embarrass them based on their previous experience with other people. One of the major things I say all the time is we're not them and you're not there. Okay? I want to take a sidebar for just a sec, guys. I want you guys to know I am Generation X. I'll get to that fried one. That means I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, all right? The latter part of my adolescence was in the 90s. And this is a big thing because back in the 90s, and this is something that you see all over the place, specifically on YouTube and in cartoons. But if you grew up a teenager in the 90s, everything sucked. I'm not saying circumstances and things like that. Actually, the economy was all right. We got to go on adventures. Our parents were doing moderately okay. We didn't have a whole lot of responsibilities. It wasn't a terrible time to be a teenager. What I mean is that we were so cynical in the 90s. Everything sucked. The music sucked. The clothing sucked. The TV sucked. I'd seen it all. Because we were the first generation, really the first generation, to grow up with both a lot of media and a higher education at a younger age, okay? And the thing is, things become cliche due to exposure. So we're the children of home entertainment, all right? Our parents didn't have VCRs. Like people today, they have streaming and the schedules are like, it's in the theater in May and it's streaming by October. You see what I mean? But we did have VHS tapes, and the VHS tapes were of all the TV that we could watch because we could record it off of television. The movies only took a year to be from the theater to the VHS tapes, and we could buy or rent those things and watch them over and over and over, which means we had access to most of the media that came before us and everything that was happening during. This is a lot like it is today, just not nearly as extreme. But what that means is we knew more about storytelling, story beats, cliches, and tropes than our parents did. Unless our parents grew up reading voraciously. And most really didn't. And if they did, they were so busy working that they didn't have much time to watch the same stuff that we did. Okay? And it's been a challenge to break those habits of seeing everything as, this is just like blah, blah, blah. Why can't we get something original? Now, how does this relate to Bleed? It's very simple. This is where out of character knowledge of media tropes influences the game. All right. Now, a lot of newer players have this expectation that the game master present them with something that they've never seen. All right. I know when I have new players that are people of color, this is a definite challenge, because if you grew up disenfranchised, and specifically a person of color, that means most of the way that you've interacted with the world was through media, through television shows and movies primarily. Okay. And in this day and age with streaming and YouTube and all that other stuff, we know cliches, we know tropes. Now, most of my YouTube playlists are about examining tropes in storytelling. We see them all the time, right? So when a player understands something, when a player understands how to solve the puzzle, or this is a story beat, or my character really shouldn't do this, it's very hard for them to differentiate between their character's knowledge and their own. Now, Fried One was talking about knowledge in general, like in this world, it's custom to greet nobles by dabbing. The character knows this, but the player doesn't. Or in this world, town hall is always north. Okay. That being the case, if let's say you're describing the town, or you're describing things that the character should know, but you haven't actually written a Bible for your world because you're not that kind of GM. I'm not. It's very simple. If you say, hey, they have to go to the town hall, and it's like, well, where's the town hall? Where your characters know that the town hall is always to the north, unless they're north of town hall, but they can't be, because if you go any further than town hall, or if you go any further north than town hall, you're not in town anymore. You see what I mean? And that part comes out of the description. But to let them know knowledges and all that stuff, when the player asks certain questions of what they don't know, you can let them know. I like to use the phrase "your character knows," or refer to their character by name. Okay. This is where backstory and all that stuff comes in. I think it's pretty important and pretty useful. All right. But a lot of the times, the bleed that we're talking about today, the problem that people have playing pretend, is when the differences between their character and themselves trip them up to where they cannot play or act. Okay? Let me think here. Now, I play a character in someone else's game over on Life Action Roleplay, and I have no idea about the magic in the world, but I'm playing a high court fae in modern Los Angeles. Solar knows. Solar knows LA. All right, this is my stomping ground. I've walked almost every single street at one point, or actually I think I've walked every street in my life at least 3 times. Don't mean I remember every street, but I know the city. But my character TJ, okay, Michael Tyler Johnson, he knows magic, and the magic that he knows is based all on fairy courts and fairy magic, and I'm not really that versed in this GM's interpretation of fairy magic. So I do ask questions, but I'm an old school role player, not a grognard, not saying I'm better than you, but I do have a lot of practice, especially from my years of training to be an actor, of separating the character that I'm playing from myself in this sense. All right. And this is where you guys should take notes. Although your character has a lot in common with you, you and your character are not the same. All right. Now this is big because when I come across new character or new players and they play characters, a lot of new players do fall into this competitive mindset where they don't understand that role-playing games are cooperative and collaborative. Okay? So instead of running players through a dungeon, they turn the game into, God, what is the name of the dungeon? The D&D dungeon that everyone hates. Help me out here, guys. It's what was it? I can look it up, but we know as soon as you hear the name, you'll be like, yes, thank you, Neon Arlecchino. The Tomb of Horrors. Okay. Now, here's the difference between the Tomb of Horrors and every other game. And Daryl's on it. Tomb of Horrors. The Tomb of Horrors was written by Gary Gygax as a competitive scenario. And by that I mean it was Gary Gygax versus his players, okay? It wasn't the dungeon master and the characters. It was Gygax, Rob, Mike, John, and Thomas. All right, that's what it was. And when new players come in, they come in with this idea a lot of the times when they hit that competitive stuff of it is up to me to prove that I am more clever than you. And it's like, that's not what we're here for, okay? I do a lot of sidebars. I really do a lot of sidebars. Because a lot of the people that I have playing role-playing games and stuff, they're new to the concept, and they're very new to the concept of collaborative gaming. Okay, especially if they're from the disenfranchised sectors. I'm talking the hood, the barrio, the ghetto, the trailer parks. Most of the games that we tend to have in those areas tend to be games like Monopoly and Sorry and Life and all of the games where each individual is trying to accomplish a goal and and of course it is my purpose to not just accomplish that goal, okay, but to accomplish that goal before you do. In some games, it's about stopping you from accomplishing that goal if you start to get ahead of me. All right. This is why the game Munchkin was made. And so when it comes down to it, the major things that I have to put out there for people is when you're sitting down in a role-playing game, the group that you're with, that's your team. All right. And I don't just mean the group of players, but the GM is on that team as well. All right. It's all the players against the story, or all the characters and the GM against the story. Now, how is that different? Well, a lot of the times, the characters, a lot of the times the players get so caught up on a tangent of the story, or they get caught up on a puzzle or a fight. They just don't know what to do. All right? They don't know what to do. And once that point hits, they fall out of character. And I know a lot of the players that I've run games for tend to beat themselves up for feeling like they've been outsmarted. All right? But again, and I keep pushing this point, and I will keep pushing this point, it's not a competition to see who's more clever. All right? I know a lot of players tend to get caught up on an idea. It's a simple idea. And the idea is something that is very, very, very common in today's cultures, especially Western culture, and that is one. There is but one silver bullet answer, one panacea. There is one way to do something, one way to accomplish something, one way to win. There is only one right answer, and everything else is wrong. And if you don't find that right answer, then you're bad. Okay, you're a bad person if you don't know the one answer. And I get it. I get where that comes from. All right. The thing I like to remind everyone is that we play games to escape. Okay, we try to escape all of those things. All right. I've worked many jobs for many unreasonable bosses. Okay, I went to public school in Los Angeles. I understand unreasonableness. All right, where doing the job, following directions, that is more important than anything else, right? Well, I'm here to say that when we are doing things like playing games, that is not the only correct thing. All right, there are many ways to get through many things. There have been so many times where my players have surprised me with their creativity. All right, and the creativity that comes in is understanding character and a little bit of individual knowledge. Okay, but when players are having a hard time playing pretend, all right, and sometimes this can be a very difficult time. Playing pretend, as it were. Here are some of the things that I like to put out there to say, all right, well, you're playing pretend. This is how you can remind yourself, all right, to stop the bleed in these directions. From a mechanical standpoint, skills and things exist for a reason. And it's a very good reason, to tell you the God's honest truth. Again, when you're playing most games, especially adventure games, these characters that you create can do things that you can't do. All right? I mean, seriously, there are things that you can't do. Like stabbing monsters. Good luck finding a bugbear in whatever city you're living in. I know I haven't been able to find one in LA for a while. Good luck throwing a fireball. It's a lot of work. Okay, a lot of work. Prestidigitation, it's pretty difficult. So when it comes down to these types of things, when it comes down to a lot of these things, your character can do things that you can't, and you know a lot of things. You know a lot of things that your character doesn't, like the laws of physics, like chemistry. Not to mention, if you have a smartphone, you can look up just about anything. That's straight up wizardry in a way that your thief character won't have. So it's always good to remind your players that there is a separation. You are not them, they are not you. They know things that you don't, and they might be able to figure their ways out. Now, this comes in, all right, and this is what I like to talk about with new players that recognize tropes. We know a lot of things. We understand a lot of tropes. But why? Well, it's very simple. We have access to knowledge and education that they don't in Forgotten Realms. That they don't in Call of Cthulhu. Like if you're playing Call of Cthulhu, that game might be set on Earth, but most of them are set in the 1920s. Okay? We know a lot more about different things. There have been discoveries made between in the past 100 years. Okay, um, basic astronomy is something that most people have. Heck, um, the past two generations of people are in debt because they went to university, and university was something huge. I mean, if you're talking like the 1900s, let alone medieval fantasy land, um, most people there only have what we consider a fourth to fifth grade education. Okay. Yeah, George Washington didn't know about dinosaurs, and his teeth weren't made of wood. Um, we know more about germ technology than they used to, or should I say, germ biology and things like that. So there's a lot more that we know that our characters wouldn't know. Um, when our players see tropes and story hooks and all that stuff, and they try and say things like, well, my character would have a bad feeling about this, and, it's okay to challenge them a little bit, going, okay, based on what? Is there something in your background I should know? You see what I mean? Um, so that is one of the really, really big things. I know so many players that like to imbue their characters with their knowledge of modern tropes and modern media, in order to avoid complication. I get that. I always like to remind people that very few stories exist from every character doing everything right. All right? Especially since there is a dichotomy of 90s cynicism, in role playing circles. Okay? Now, I'm going to talk about the monomyth for a hot minute. Part of the monomyth, the Joseph Campbell hero's journey and all that stuff, is call to adventure. Hero refuses the call. The hero is forced on the call regardless. All right? Example, when Obi-Wan Kenobi talked to Luke Skywalker is like, yeah, guess what? This is bigger than me. I can't take on the Empire. Thanks a lot. I'm going home. And then when he got home, Uncle Ben and Aunt Veru was a pile of burning skeletons. All right? We have presentation of the call to adventure, the refusal of the call, and then the forcing of the call. Now, a lot of players, especially new players that are trying to be clever, would say, choo-choo, all along the railroad. Yeah, all aboard the story train. I get it. I definitely get it. But here's the thing. This is for my newer players, especially from the disenfranchised sectors, the Hood, the Barrio, the Gayborhood, all those places. It's easy to live in not quite fear, but caution. All right. When it comes to that level of caution, that's a good point, Vixabel. Willow didn't want to take in the human child, but then it's like, well, you don't take in the human child, somebody's gonna kill that little thing, and you're gonna have to live with that an infant was killed on your conscience for the rest of your life. Because you could have done something, and you didn't, because it was safer for you. You know what I mean? It really is one of those big things. Now, it's really easy to live in a sense of caution. I was in a villains game a long time ago where we started epic level. This was for Pathfinder. And the rest of the players just did not want to leave town. They, instead of playing an adventure game, we ended up playing a city council simulation game. Drove our GM nuts. Okay? Drove him nuts. And I'm like, well, you got to make the story hooks a little more transparent, because I would love to get out of town and go on an adventure to, if nothing else, bring in money to take care of the town's infrastructure. Call me crazy. But But the thing I like to remind new players is, yes, story hooks exist for a reason. And when sitting down at the table, we have agreed to go on adventures, be they medieval adventures or treasure hunting or modern fantasy or space adventure. Okay, and I put it on my characters to sell me on the adventure of staying home and running a restaurant. You know, when I'm like, yeah, guess what? You're out of lamb and there's no more lamb in the village. What are you going to do? There's been talk of goblins herding all of the sheep and lambs and starving out the villages for something. And they're like, oh, well, I guess we just won't serve lamb. You see what I mean? And those things tend to happen when newer players are so afraid for their character's safety that they duck all of adventures. All right? So let's go over what we've talked about today in regards to bleed. One, you and your characters are not the same. No matter how much you try and create yourself inside a game, if you're playing an adventure game or an investigation game, that character is going to be something different from you. Okay? If for nothing else, rolling out stats. I'm just putting that out there. Second, remember that you're in a group setting. Okay? I know that it's really, really easy to put yourself in the shoes of your character with everything that you know. And when you get stuck, making your character stuck. Ways past this is this is the coaching that I normally do as a GM. When I set up a situation, I think about 4 or 5 different things that could possibly fix the situation. All right. And I ask, I look at the characters and I'm like, okay, so you could probably use something like a nature roll or a survival roll or an investigation check or a tracking check. Something that involves looking around, and or you can, or you can try some of these spells or some of those spells. You see what I mean? I don't tell them what to do, but I lay out a menu for them to try, because I don't want to play their characters for them. I would like them to play the game. And that is one of the things that I always try and remind my new players. I'm like, dude, take a risk. You are playing a game where you're playing the character and you're writing the character that is an adventurer. Is this an adventure? Is staying home and tending to your restaurant an adventure? If so, how? Because I don't see it. So sell me on it. I'm totally willing to be convinced, but let me know how. Wow. See, yeah, that is. I can't hide my annoyance sometimes because my voice starts going all up. Yeah. So let me know how. And the one thing I always try and tell new players, especially new players to role-playing games in general, is if you live a life where perfection is demanded by those around you, we are not those around you, and you are not at work. You're not in that place anymore. Monday night when I ran Warp Tumbler C24, there was a fantastic combat scene that we had, and one of the players was like, I'm gonna cast a spell, and there was a really big thing and there was grappling, and the player cast the spell of Entangled and ended up entangling everybody that was stuck in that combat, because it was like, we're fighting, we're on the ground grappling, and they're like, I'm gonna cast this, and I'm like, how does it manifest? And they're like, oh, well, things come up from the ground and go, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, great. And let me just make that saving throw. And okay, yeah, nope. And and sure enough, you know, they did the thing. It wasn't perfect. They ended up entangling the NPC along with the antagonist. And the NPC ended up taking a lot of damage and getting poisoned. But you see how even when I'm describing it, I'm laughing? This is laughter of enjoyment. Okay? One of the greatest parts about playing role-playing games in general is that the errors that you make, okay, the mistakes that you make, also lead to great stories. All of it can be fun if you let it, okay? And the bleed that we're talking about today is letting your thoughts, issues, and stuff get in your own way of having fun, okay? This is big. This is very big. This is like one of those big things, okay? I know that the world that we live in right now has trained a lot of people younger than me to be afraid of making mistakes, afraid of not looking perfect, afraid of taking all the air out of the room and making things awkward for everyone else, and easily embarrassed, okay? But here's the thing. When you're sitting at a role-playing table, there are some tables that, as my old GM says often, I don't deal with beginner humans. Don't sit at those tables. However, you're robbing yourself of a fantastic opportunity and a lot of fun if you assume that every table is like that. I'll tell you, from the decades that I have played role-playing games, very few tables are like that. Very few. We're talking less than 5% of available tables that are out there are that hardcore and that realistic, you know. Even when you're playing things like Vampire the Masquerade, which is less adventure and more political or more horror and things like that, people aren't there to mock each other openly most of the time. Okay? That's just the whole thing. It's not about mocking openly and making people feel bad, you know. As you guys know, like I keep pointing out, I'm Generation X, which means all the stuff I like to do, I grew up getting clowned on for so hard. Man, why you so weird? Why you dressed like that? Why you juggling knives on fire? What are you doing with that kitten? All those things. You know, people used to make fun of me all the time because I didn't dress in the modern fashion. I liked to read. I played pretend. And there was a time that I stopped liking rap music because I couldn't really identify with what they were talking about anymore. And that made me the subject of such ridicule for a while. Okay? The thing is, though, there were places that I was accepted. So when someone invites you, when someone that you like and someone that you trust invites you to be at their gaming table, trust them enough to actually want you there so that you can have a good time and you can bring fun to everyone else while having a good time. And that means that you can bring fun to the table, while having a good time means that the fun you bring to the table will not be at your expense. Okay? And again, it really is a matter of understanding things that do take the air out of the room. Okay? As you guys know, C24 is an all-girl campaign. Every game afterwards, I'm like, did I go too far with this? Did I go too far with that? What's the line? I'm doing my best here, but I'm not quite sure, and I don't want to make this awkward. That's what I do as the GM. Because we all make mistakes, and it's just good to have kind of a map. So learning what lines are instead of just assuming that the lines that you've seen elsewhere are universally applicable. It's a little more work. All right? But as I tell people, especially when I'm arguing with them, give people the chance to surprise you by being reasonable. Okay? I know where I live, a lot of kids steal stuff. All right? That's what it was where I was growing up. And I was working with some kids at the community center, and one of them stole one of my minis. And I'm like, you stole that mini? No, I didn't. And I'm like, look, stop. You liked it. I saw you wanting to play with it the whole time. You took it. Okay? Here's the thing. If I were to put you in trouble, I would put you in trouble for not asking. Because you didn't give me the chance to tell you that it was cool. You assumed that it wasn't. Or you took it without asking, because if you did ask and I said no, you would still want it. Okay? And I'm like, give me the chance to surprise you. Now give me the miniature back, and we'll see if your behavior merits me giving it to you sometime in the future. You see what I mean? Now, that's just me working with kids. That's just how I do the thing. But again, the important thing from that little anecdote is to give the people that you're interacting with the chance to say yeah. Just give them the opportunity. If they say no, that's one thing, it'll be dealt with. Even if you're convinced they're going to say no, give them the chance to say yeah. Just give them the chance to say okay. Because if they do say okay, oh my God, it's such a load off the shoulders, you know. So yeah. So when it comes to taking the air out of the room, being frustrated, not wanting to ask a question because you might feel that you'll look stupid, and all that bad stuff that bleeds over into your hobby from the outside world, stop and give yourself the chance to have fun. Okay? That's it. Now, here are my guidelines. Is what you want to do at someone else's expense. Okay? If not, cool. If someone else at the table were going to ask this question or do this thing, would you be annoyed? If the answer is yes, next part of the flow chart, are those people like me? do they have my history? And it's a really quick thought process type of thing, and just go with the first answer that hits your head. And if you have to apologize afterwards, apologize, take note, and don't do it again in the future. It's that simple. Or if you think that what you're doing might take the oxygen out of the room or might get on a player's nerves, talk to that player just real quick. Hey, I got this idea, but I'm thinking it would be this, you know. Give yourself and the other players a chance to play with you and not against you. Okay? Yeah, that's where I'm sitting with that. So I want to say thank you to all the people that have managed to show up today. I want to give a major shout out to my folks in the chat. Y'all know who you are. And, you know, I'm really glad that I managed to get everything back and up. I literally was able to fix the sound and all that jazz today. Like, essentially, I got everything working. I ran a couple of tests, and then I went live because it happened to be a little bit after 3. I have a few more cards to make up and a lot of those things, but we're back. This will at least give me limping along until the new hard drive that I ordered gets here, which will probably be in about 4 or 5 days. Okay? But with that, I gotta say thank you guys for showing up, and major shout outs to my folks, and major shout out to my folks in the chat, my folks on YouTube. Like, share the video, subscribe, head on over to the Patreon, sign up for $5 a month, if you will. If you're willing to go higher than that, I would really appreciate it. It keeps us alive for times when I have to order a new hard drive. You know, it's that kind of thing. But anyway, let me just turn the music up just a little. And I want to say again, major thank you to everybody, and thank you for bearing with me because this has been awesome. But if anybody tells you that you can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, or your budget, you can tell them to take any of those cards and put them back in the deck. This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying thank you guys for showing up, and we will see you next time on the dark side of the room.